The Twilight Zone, the night of the Meek. Gifts, garbage, and grace. Henry Corwin isn't just a drunk Santa in a rundown department store. He is every mind exhausted by pretending, ashamed of falling short, yet still carrying a small willingness to see differently. He says, "I am ashamed," and that confession is not a collapse but a doorway. A Course in Miracles teaches that in my defenselessness my safety lies. Corwin stops defending a persona and starts telling the truth, and that is the hinge on which the whole night swings. Mr. Dundee is not a villain so much as a ledger come to life. He attacks because he is afraid, and fear always demands a payment from someone. Flaherty the cop begins as a skeptic and ends as a witness, which is how grace often enters a scene. The tenement children are not greedy but trained, rehearsing the world's catechism of lack. I want a toy, a job for my daddy, a picture of my husband, becomes the lullaby of separation. Even the mother's "you ought to be ashamed" plants a seed the ego waters for years. Then the cat. A nudge from nowhere. The bag crashes to the ground, and Corwin thinks it holds nothing but cans. This is the pivot from form to content, from garbage to gift, from grievance to presence. Nothing external changes, yet perception flips, and the alley becomes a Bethlehem. Cans turn into presents because the mind that feared now gives, and giving corrects perception. The bag is a symbol of heaven's storehouse, unearned and inexhaustible, answering the need exactly where it seems to be. Ego gifts are always costly, scarce, and secretly stolen from someone. Spirit's gifts cost nothing, cannot be stolen, and multiply in the giving. Forgiveness is the only real gift, and the only price is the willingness to drop a story. Corwin says, "I can drink or I can weep, and drinking is so much more subtle." And that line is a parable of sedation. The world is the bottle that dulls the ache of dissonance between truth and illusion. Weeping is honesty, and honesty is the first step toward a holy instant. Corwin becomes drunk on giving, not to earn innocence but to remember it. No effort buys the miracle because miracles are not wages, they are recognitions. Dundee's outrage keeps trying to drag the story back to inventory, theft, and loss. He cannot imagine a commerce without cost because he cannot imagine love without conditions. So the miracle answers him personally, vintage cherry brandy on request, and his accounting starts to melt. Flaherty watches, and the law he thought he enforced gives way to a law he can only witness. Need is met precisely, not lavishly, because true abundance gives what actually helps. A sweater is a sweater, and dignity is the warmth inside it. When Corwin is hauled in, he does not resist, and that quiet is stronger than argument. In my defenselessness, my safety lies, not as a slogan but as a demonstration. The ego hears defenselessness and thinks weakness, but defenselessness cannot be attacked because it does not agree to the premise. So the pile of stolen goods becomes a pile of returned joy, and the charge evaporates in the very act of sharing. The sneer softens into a smile, the suspicion into surprise, the private hunger into a communal feast. This is joining, the end of ledgers and the start of singing. Joy to the world, the Lord has come, does not mean arrival, it means recognition. He never left, we were asleep under fluorescent lights and price tags. Let every heart prepare him room, is the instruction, and defenselessness is the room. By the time the sleigh arrives, we are ready to see it. Corwin's wish to be the biggest gift giver of all time is answered by identity, not status. He rides with the real Santa because the costume has been repurposed from role to function. No one is jealous and no one is left out because the miracle did not steal from anyone to bless someone else. Dundee and Flaherty stand in the snow without rivalry, full of warmth without a bottle, and the ledger is a puddle on the curb. The alley where cans once clattered is now the place where a town remembered itself. It was not about Christmas or a suit or a store. It was about the one decision that changes every alley and every ledger. Choose forgiveness over grievance. Choose presence over presence. Choose defenselessness over defense. And watch as the meek inherit a world that was never taken from them. A Course in Miracles teaches that what you give you strengthen in yourself, and Corwin's night makes the axiom visible enough to wrap. Grace did not come because he was good. He remembered he was good because grace came. He did not climb to heaven. Heaven stooped to meet his willingness on a curb. And the only cost was a story he was finally tired of keeping. Submitted for your approval, 1 Henry Corwin, outcast, inebriate, and accidental theologian. On a certain December evening, he stumbled over a bag the world called cans and opened it to discover a warehouse the accountants never stock. He gave until there was no lack left to measure, and then, as such tales insist on doing, he rode away in a sleigh no eye could invoice. Perhaps you will say it was the brandy. Perhaps you will say it was the snow. But consider, if you will, that it was simply love doing its arithmetic in that peculiar district known as the Twilight Zone.